an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Red Rising Book 3, Morning Star, chapters 15 through 20, which sounds like a lot, but isn't enough. The Hunt, Paramore, Killing Golds, Abyss, Pressure, and Descent. The Descent with two S's and an I, not descent as in going down. You get me? In these chapters, shit goes so wrong. I don't know what to think about Sevro. I was on your side, bud. What the fuck are you doing? Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you so much to Cassie for commissioning this episode. Cassie is here in the chat along with Ashley. Delighted to have you both here. Y'all, I don't even know where to start with my feelings on this. I am so disappointed. And it's such a weird thing because, like, Sevro's character, I don't feel like this is exactly out of character or anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I am kind of interested in the fact that, like, what we've got going on here is a kid who's been thrust into a position of authority and kind of, like, I don't want to say by no virtue of his own, because that's not fair at all. Sevro is a really capable, smart person in general. But I think in combination with his father being killed the way he was, with Darrow being completely taken out of the equation, so he has been without any sort of, like, specific guidance, and the rage that he has been filled with, along with a sort of flair for the dramatic, which Darrow has been able to harness in a good way, but has seemed to be aimless and just sort of acting out for the sake of it in some ways, because of it's feeling like the simplest, most expedient way rather than the actual, like, smartest way. What has happened to Sevro is he's turned into the kind of character that you would normally see as an outright, like, enemy or at least rival in a lot of other circumstances. So the fact that he has been Darrow's, like, number one guy, supporter, right-hand man up until now just makes this all the more devastating to watch happen. And it is so frustrating, you guys, because, like, by the time this section ends, Darrow has still not gotten Sevro away from everybody to talk to him by himself. Sevro just is ducking him, you know, and is pissed and doesn't want to, like, he doesn't want to have this conversation. And I can't help but, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I grew so frustrated at how Darrow kept trying to pull him aside. And I respect it, and I think he's doing the right thing. But part of me just wanted him to blurt out what is going on in front of everybody. Because if Sevro is going to try and play these games, maybe you need to be put on Front Street a little bit. You know, maybe that's the only way to deal with you. If you're going to be really immature about it, maybe you need to be treated like a child. Maybe that's how it has to go, you know? I don't know, though. I mean, that could very well lead to, like, a break in the relationship that it's impossible to sort of get back. So, anyway, let's start from the beginning with 15. You guys. They're in the trash. This whole thing is so gross. Victor makes a gagging sound over the comm as toilet paper sticks to her face. I swear to God, not in a million years. We wear no mechanized armor, only thin scarab skin over our bodies that will stop knives and occasional projectiles. We have no grav boots or pulse armor. Nothing that will slow us, cause noise, or trip sensors. We wear oxygen masks with air enough for 40 minutes. So, they activate their ghost cloaks, and there's, this whole thing. The collector's door retracts silently, bathing us in the amber light of a holo display screen on a nearby skyscraper. There's a burst of air, and my world spins as the trash collector ejects its load of garbage from the back of its hold. We're like seed chaff thrown into the city, spinning with debris through a kaleidoscope world of towers and advertisements. Hundreds of ships funneling along avenues. So the fact is that this is straight up littering. Opening this and just releasing trash into the air, there's a problem with this. And yeah, this doesn't alert the cops that there's anything wrong. Apparently, them being in the midst of all this garbage is not detected at all. It's only seen as trash. I was so nervous throughout all of this. I'm going to be honest. And I do think it was because Sevro was the one in charge. It's just, the last section, he had just been acting a little, and this is when it really begins to come to a head. So they're coming down and they have magnets in their gloves, and there is a moment here where Darrow gets knocked askew and almost doesn't attach to the spot he's supposed to on the building. And he just barely gets grabbed by Victra. And he has a moment here where he almost hyperventilates and has to be talked down. And I do really appreciate the fact that the fearlessness he had once felt isn't there for him the way it was. He is much more acutely aware of consequences than he ever has been. It takes us 5 minutes to climb from our landing place to the peak of the tower, where it becomes a large crescent. So eventually, there is a moment where Sevro is given a bit of information. That's the Aventine Peninsula, so it's probably Cyprian. Last intel said the Red Legion was moving toward the city. Then comes another flash, and then 7 of us hunker motionless on the crest of the building, watching as a second nuclear bomb detonates a thumb's distance away from the first. Nuclear, you guys. Bloody damn. Is it us or them, I ask. Sevro. I don't know, Sevro says impatiently. You don't know? Victra asks. How could he not know? I want to shout. But I grasp the answer because Dancer's words now haunt me. Sevro's not running this war, he told me. He's just a man pouring gas on the fire. Maybe I didn't understand how far gone this war is, how far-reaching the chaos has become. Could I have been wrong to trust him so blindly? I watch his expressionless mask. The skin of his armor drinks the colors of the city around. He turns slowly from the explosion and begins to climb again, already moving on. And Pebble says that Holo News is saying Red Legion used nukes against Golds. Bloody damn liars, Clown snaps. Another bait and switch. Where would Red Legion get nukes, Victra asks. Doesn't mean shit to us now. Lock it up, Sevro says. Still gotta do what we came here to do. So they climb, and Pebble gets into the system the way that she is meant to. But then she's like, all right, so the information that they're meant to have is not available to them. I can't. It's odd. The cameras are off in the top 2 levels. Same with biometric readers. Can't pinpoint him like we planned. Maybe he's having an orgy or wanking off and doesn't want a security to see. Sevro grunts with a shrug. Either way, he's hiding something, so that's where we're headed. And this is actually really fascinating because what we find out later on is that Quicksilver is having a meeting with the Jackal's enemies. So he has all of this stuff turned off so that he can't be spotted having this conversation. But it really does look like it's a trap. And I don't blame Darrow one bit for thinking that this is odd and maybe that they should pull back. It's very difficult for me to decide whether or not the Darrow before the box, Darrow BB, would have gone through with this anyway, or if he would have seen this as a real problem that they should shy away from. I honestly can't decide. I feel like he would have seen that as a problem and gone ahead anyway, but he would have changed up the plan a little bit. Whereas Sevro decides to just go ahead as planned originally. But yeah, the point of this is that they're supposed to be able to pinpoint exactly where he's at, but now they have to kind of go room to room to figure out where Quicksilver is, because the point is to take him hostage. And Darrow is like, well, we can't wander around looking for him. And Sevro just says, we won't wander, and then cuts the comm off. And this, for me, is really the thing. I understand not wanting to be second-guessed, but Darrow isn't doing this in front of everybody. He does a private link with Sevro to express his concerns. And the fact that Sevro doesn't want to hear it and cuts it off, that for me is the deciding factor. It's not that he disagrees with Darrow. If he were to have listened and been like, I think we still need to do it, and had a sort of a more real discussion with him. And on the one hand, I understand he is in a position of authority where it's like, I shouldn't have to have a conversation with you about this because I am in command and you're meant to obey what I say. So the very act of conversing is sort of undermining my authority. But again, this is not public. They were talking comm to comm. So the fact that Sevro is in this place mentally where he is just refusing to hear Darrow's concerns, that's the part that bothers me. Because Darrow, in the past, if somebody had brought something up to him, I think he would have given it some weight. Not to say that he would have capitulated or taken their advice, but I think he would have respected the words of a friend, the warning of a friend, more than Sevro is here. And that's the part that I really feel like is the problem for me. He is just being really petulant. And I don't know if it's in reaction to Darrow getting up and walking out after finding out that his footage of his carving was released. If it's Sevro is sort of pissed about the fact that Darrow second guessed that action and is holding on to that. But there's just a whole feel here of Sevro trying to prove something to Darrow and getting angry at the fact that it's not working. There's something very personal feeling about it, even though that's not what it should be. So eventually they get into this bizarre area of the building. A maze of otherworldly hallways, floors of black marble, walls of glass, 10-meter-high ceilings made from pulse fields, which look into aquariums where vibrant reefs of coral stretch like fungal tentacles. Reptilian mermaids 1 foot long with humanoid faces, gray skin, and skulls shaped like crowns swim through a kingdom of scalding blue and violent orange. Hateful little crow eyes glare down at us as they pass, which I don't know about you guys, but I don't really like that. Just saying, I would rather not have mermaids if that's the mermaids that we're going to end up with. That's like, why don't we have mermaids? We have mermaids at home. These are the mermaids at home. I don't like it. It turns out that all of this is like the exact kind of decor that's meant to make him be like sort of not taken seriously. And Darrow really sees it as a performance and believes that this guy is a little savvier than his decor makes him out to be. I love there lurks a gaudy purple metallic dog shaped like a balloon animal. And have you all seen these? I don't know why these got so popular for a minute, but they were everywhere. Target had a bunch of them. Horrible looking. The building pulses with artifice. The walls, the art, the mermaids, all so on the nose of what the peerless Scarred would expect of a newly moneyed Silver. Quicksilver must know gold's psychology intimately in order to have been allowed to grow so wealthy, so I wonder, is this extravagance all something far more clever? Which makes me think something is amiss as we reach an unlit atrium with unpolished sandstone floors perforated by pink jasmine trees, and slink across the floor in a V formation toward the set of double doors that leads to Quicksilver's bedroom suite. So they get to his bedroom, and Darrow finally again breaks in and says something's wrong here. Where are the servants, the guards? I think it's a trap. And Sevro says, is that your head or your gut talking? My gut. He's quiet for a breath, and I wonder if he's speaking to someone else on the other line. Maybe he's speaking to all of them. What's your rec? So he asks here, a little progress, but then immediately when Darrow says pull back, he's just like, are you fucking kidding? For all we know, they drop nukes on our people. I've run 13 ops just to get intel on this silvery asshole. We leave now, that's all slagged. They'll know we were here. We won't have this chance again. He's the key to getting the jackal. You gotta trust me, Reap. Do you? Oh, I hated this so much. I really did. Like, they wind up getting Quicksilver. They do wind up in a position that is, like, ultimately good for them. So Sevro isn't wrong, but the way this is handled is so difficult. So they go into the room, and there's this moment here that I thought was really interesting because a luxury vessel passes the wall of windows. I watch the vessel drift along. Lights pulse on one side of its deck as several hundred pixies writhe to some Etrurian club beat that's all the rage on far-off Luna, as if a war didn't wage on the planet beneath this moon, as if we didn't move to rupture their way of life. They'll drink champagne from Earth, in clothes made on Venus, in ships fueled by Mars, and they'll laugh and consume and screw and face no consequences. So many little locusts. Suffering isn't real to them. War isn't real. It's just a 3-letter word for other people that they see in the digital news feeds. Just a stream of uncomfortable images they skip past. I don't know about you, but I felt very attacked. Like, I'm a pixie, right? I mean, sure, I'm part of an oppressed group in general, but in terms of the world overall, I can just skip the uncomfortable images. I can just avoid the news. I can just go out dancing and drinking and not consider any of that something that I really need to worry about. And that's just facing reality. And it's uncomfortable to know that I'm one of these, A whole business of weapons and arms and ships and hierarchies they don't even notice, all to shield these fools from the true agony of what it means to be human. Soon they'll know, and on their deathbeds they'll remember tonight who they were with, what they were doing when that three-letter word gripped them and never let go. This pleasure cruise, this hideous decadence, is the last gasp of the Golden Age. So this is what eventually gets Darrow saying, I trust you, and they go through with it. And he is thinking about the fact that he is feeling very alone in the midst of all of this, and how odd it is. And he, like, sort of part of that is Mustang not being here and feeling like the two of us were always on the same page, and I knew that she would be thinking along the same lines as me, but there's nobody around me like that now. Something itches in the back of my brain like eyes watch me. Whatever Sevro says, something is wrong here. Not just in this building, but with his plan. Is this how I would have done it? How Fitchner would have done it? If it succeeds, what do we usher in after the dust is settled and the helium no longer flows? A dark age? Sevro is a force unto himself. His rage, a thing to move mountains. I was once like that, and look what it got me. So they go into the room, and it turns out that it's not Quicksilver in the bed. It's a pink, and it turns out it's Mateo, who Darrow knows. And Sevro has been basically torturing him, trying to get out of him where Quicksilver is. And so when Darrow steps in and is telling him to stop, Sevro is getting really pissed about it. It's so awful. The way that this, like, Darrow tries to save him, but Mateo is terrified. They are wearing masks so he doesn't recognize Darrow. And so the first thing that Mateo tries to do as soon as Sevro's attention is off him is, like, grab a data pad. And this results in Sevro punching him in the face and, like, breaking his jaw. The whole thing is, it's just his arm is also broken. Like, the whole thing is just so violent. And Darrow is really shaken, seeing not only the way that Sevro metes out this violence, but the fact that the Howlers have very little reaction to it, which shows that he does this sort of shit all the time, and that they have gotten used to it. And it's just, you know, shit's changing, man. 9 months is a long time. You were out of the mix, and they've evolved a little without you. And you're going to have to either catch up or pull them back. So, yeah, this is when he says, like, he's a son of Ares, or he was. He was one of my teachers before the Institute. He's a rose of the garden. He costs as much as you, Stained, she says to Ragnar. You sure it's the same man, Sevro asks me. Of course I'm bloody damn sure. His name is Mateo. Then why is he here, Ragnar asks. Doesn't look like a captive, Victor says. Those are expensive pajamas. He's probably a paramour. Quicksilver's not known for celibacy, after all. He must have turned, Sevro says harshly. And we find out later that Quicksilver is, so he says, a son of Ares. And I'm inclined to believe him. He says it. It could be bullshit, but I think it's true, and I think that's why this guy is here with him the way he's here. So all of this is just very quickly adding up to sort of like, what the fuck is all of this doesn't make sense, you know? And Victra, when he's like, it could be a trap, we need to adjust, Victra chimes in, even if it is a trap, look who we're packing, we'll punch through that shit. Bloody damn right, Julii. Sevro moves toward the door. And later on, there are some moments where Darrow looks over at Victra and he sees in her face that she regrets pushing that they just go ahead and do this the way that they do. So, a level down, they meet their first security team, and it's mentioned that there are Greys who are bringing coffee and stuff into this room instead of pinks or browns like they would usually use. Again, all feeling like, oh God, this is bad news. This is bad news. And it was so tense that I was genuinely surprised when they bust into this room and there's no trap waiting for them and it's a meeting. You guys, I was so sure. The reason why all of this is set up the way that it is makes total sense once you've contextualized it in that situation. But God, this whole thing made me go, stop, just don't do it. Don't go. Don't do it, you know? So they get past the Greys that are outside the door and they get fucking leveled like the Greys do. The Greys haven't managed to fire a single shot, but one has pressed a button on his datapad and the deep throbbing sound of the tower's alarm echoes down the hall. The walls pulse red, signaling an emergency. So they break through the door and they come across a bunch of people sitting around a conference table. And they realize that there are a bunch of golds here. The Death Knight, pudgy-faced Moira, a Fury, sister of Aja, and good old Cassius Albolona. To the right are Kavax au Telemanus, Doxo au Telemanus, and the girl who left me on my knees in the old mining tunnels of Mars nearly 1 year ago. And I was like, oh shit. How? Like, I had a moment of thinking, are they all working with the Jackal actually? And it was the first time that I considered Mustang had genuinely betrayed Darrow, because I said last episode that people were talking about her as if she had betrayed him, but I didn't consider it a betrayal. It felt like she had left him to do his thing and hadn't shared any information about him or anything. And as far as I knew, was still working toward the goal she had been. So this was the first time that I was sort of like, oh God, is she? But we find out later she still is. And she was certain he was dead, as was everybody. Like, they're really keeping Darrow being alive under wraps, despite his visiting that group of Reds in the hospital. I kind of took him visiting them as like him releasing the info that he's still alive. But it turns out that that is like a really controlled situation. And they have not made it super public that he is still alive, which Darrow later is thinking they probably are going to have to do. And I agree. So the reaction that they get here is really odd, because what it turns out, the Quicksilver thinks that these guys busting in are the Jackal's men because he's meant to be on the Jackal's side and he's having this illicit meeting with his enemies. So understandably, he's like trying to keep this under wraps from the Jackal. And once a bunch of people who break in with masks on, like, what else are you going to think? Of course, that's what he assumes. And let's see. My stomach lurches as I realize the rest of the room must think we're Bone Riders, which means they think we're here to kill them, and this is going to end only one way. This whole thing, Cassius is moving forward, and Clown keeps yelling at him to stop moving, and he keeps fucking moving anyway, and nobody is actually like doing anything to stop him. It's so uncomfortable the way that they keep trying to instruct him and how powerless they are when he just ignores them. Darrow attempts at one point, Kavax, Mustang, stop, it's me, and he gets cut off. Victra snarls at Cassius and he lunges at her. Ragnar makes a weird twisting movement to my left, and one of the 2 razors he carries flies through the air and skewers the Death Knight through his forehead. The silvers gape at the famous Olympic knight teetering to the ground. Guys, is Cassius dead? Is Cassius the Death Knight? Help me out here. Because the way this is written, I think Cassius is dead. But that just seems wrong. The Death Knight isn't Cassius, right? Okay. Cassius... Okay. Oh my god, I'm so confused. Cassie is telling me that Cassius is the Morning Knight. Cassie is in the chat. Okay. So, the Death Knight, do we know who that is? The name of that person? The way that was written, like, for a moment, I got so mixed up, and I was like, I can't imagine this author having Cassius just get skewered through the head in this unceremonious way by Ragnar in a sort of 1-sentence thing, and he's down, and that's it. But it was very, like, the moment for me was just like, wait, what? And I'm pretty sure Cassius is mentioned later on in the fight, but I just wanted to explain how I felt when I was, like, actually reading this for the first time, how this, like, stopped me short and made me go, wait, hold on, because I'm positive that Cassius' actions are described later on. So I knew fairly quickly that he was not dead, but the way this was written, it just tripped me up a lot. Ashley says, we don't know the Death Knight. Okay, got it. So, fight. And eventually, we have Mustang up against Darrow. And Darrow is not as fast as he once was. And Mustang is faster than she once had been. And this combination leads to him getting beaten back up against the wall eventually. She is going for him with everything she's got, and I have to respect it. She manages to get a slice into his shoulder. 3 quick cuts at the tendons of my right arm follow, just missing, building a rhythm. My back's touching the wall. Cut, stab, fire opening up my skin. I'm going to die here. I call for help over my comm, but they're still jammed by Sevro. We've bitten off more than we can chew. I scream in futility as Mustang's blade scrapes through 3 of my ribs. She spins the blade in her hand, swings backhanded to cut my head off. I manage to deflect the razor into the wall with mine, pinning it above my head so her helmet is near my mask. I headbutt her, but her helmet's stronger than the composite duroplastic of my mask. She reels back her own head and slams it into mine using my own tactic. Life comes at you fast. Sucks to suck, Darrow. I'm so sorry about it. I love this. She is such a badass. Oh, good for you. Good for you. Give it to him, bitch. Trembling, she looks at my exposed face. Her helmet slithers away to reveal her own. Sweat-soaked hair clings to her forehead, darkening the golden luster. Beneath, her eyes are wild, and I wish I could say it's love or joy I see in them, but it's not. If anything, it's fear, maybe horror, that draws the blood from her face as she stumbles back, gesturing speechlessly with her offhand. I saw you die. And she eventually yells to Kavax and Daxo to pull back. And they bounce the fuck out of there. They are on top of Screwface, who Darrow is yelling, "Don't kill." He's met the Telemanuses, so he holds his blade and snaps at the newer haulers to do the same. Daxo tries to rush to his father's aid, but Ragnar and I bar his way. His bright eyes stare in confusion at my face. "Go, Virginia!" Kavax roars from the ground. "Flee!" "I have the packs. Orion is alive," Mustang says. Don't kill him, please. And then with a sorrowful look to Kavax, she flees the room. So, we go to 18. And the fact is that they have fucked this room up bad enough that soon shit is going to start going quite left, and they need to find a way to survive the fact that they are going to be exposed to space. The conflict in this one scene is fucking Darrow confronting Sevro about the fact that he cut his comms and not trusting that Sevro didn't know this meeting was happening. And the way that he yells at Sevro for cutting his comms in front of everybody, somebody else later on is sort of like, wait, what do you mean he cut your comms? And that, for me, it doesn't get followed up on, but I felt like the reveal that he did that is going to erode something between Sevro and his people. I think that they see Darrow as their ultimate leader, and finding out that Sevro is sort of undercutting Darrow like this is going to be a problem for them. I don't know. There may be some of them that feel more allegiance to Sevro than to Darrow, but the person who asked, I think, must care a little bit more about Darrow ultimately than Sevro's orders, you know? So let's see. Did you know Mustang would be here? Not at all. Seriously, boss. He glances back at Sevro. What did you mean he jammed your comms? It's Clown. Stop John and find the bloody damn silver, Sevro barks from the center of the room. So yeah, he's just avoiding shit at this point. It's not great. I don't love this. Eventually, they find poor Mateo, who is like alive but fucked up. He got trapped under a pillar, I think. And they managed to like get him out of there. But yeah, he is in a bad way. And it turns out that there is a pillar. The pillar that fell in front of a door that was about to let through a bunch of fucking, I think, grays or obsidians. I can't remember. But it was going to end really, really badly for them if they hadn't had the like unexpected bonus of the pillar blocking the door. Completely accidental. And they would all have been fucking fried. And so, you know, earlier I was saying, I guess Sevro wasn't wrong because they, in the end, they do get Quicksilver. But seeing this, he was wrong. This is so tough. He was, ultimately. I hate this, though, because a part of me feels like he was wrong, but if this hadn't happened, Darrow wouldn't find out what he finds out. So, like, Sevro fucked up, but in the end, it's kind of to Darrow's benefit, short term anyway. And so a part of me is like, well, thank God he did fuck up. Do you know what I'm saying? So Darrow finally, at this point, begins to assert his authority over Sevro's in just a very overt way. And when Sevro gives an order and is trying to be like, we're going to cut through them, Darrow instantly is just like, no, fuck that. Pebble, hail Holiday, tell her evac is squabbed, give her our coordinates. She's to park 1 kilometer beyond the glass, ass end our way. I'm back. Now do it. Do it, Pebble, Ragnar says. Victra gives me a small nod. Pebble grimaces at Sevro. Sorry, Sevro. She nods to me and opens up her comm to hail Holiday. The rest of the Howlers look to me, and it hurts knowing I've made them choose like this. I mean, I'm sure it does. That fucking sucks. The thing that originally Sevro was going to try and do is just like, fuck everybody. I'm trying to find the spot where this happens here, because Ragnar is the one who's just like, I will not do that. And I think that comes a little bit later. But Darrow manages to like tie them together. He gets them all in a group so that when they are released into space, they can get scooped up in a knot by the ship. And it is a really like awful process because they get swollen and misshapen. Like their whole selves are fucked up in this whole process. And he sees that they all are looking to him, terrified, seeing the fear on him. And he recognizes that he has to like put a face on for the sake of everybody there, because he is the one that they draw their strength from at this point. So he decides to throw his head back and scream, howl, in order to boost them and make this feel like something lunatic that they're doing that's ballsy instead of just fucking suicide. And it works except for Sevro. He's the only one who doesn't howl. And that is a huge bummer. So this I'm going to skip over the whole thing with like the way that our bodies react to the vacuum of space. But I wonder in my last moments if the planet does not mind that we wound her surface or pillage her bounty, because she knows we silly warm things are not even a breath in her cosmic life. We have grown and spread and will rage and die. And when all that remains of us is our steel monuments and plastic idols, her winds will whisper, her sands will shift, and she will spin on and on, forgetting about the bold, hairless apes who thought they deserved immortality. What a fucking line. My God. I love that so much. And it's been underlined by a lot of people, according to Kindle. Trying to see how many. 3,910. I'm going to go ahead and also highlight it so that I can just make it 3,911. So he wakes up and everybody is coming back to themselves. They were out there for 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Man, if you hadn't been linked, most of you would be dead as lead. There's rubble and corpses floating around the sector now. HC crews crawling everywhere. Ragnar? I ask, fearfully, not having heard him yet. I am here, my friend. The abyss will not claim us yet. He begins to laugh. Not just yet. So, 20. Sevro takes command back as soon as they are like up to doing anything. Mateo and Quicksilver are brought to the infirmary. Kavax is put in a cell. The suns stare at us, dumbstruck. Our obsidian disguises are obliterated, particularly mine. And this is when one of them realizes that Darrow is here, and Clown is like, shut the fuck up and don't you dare say anything to anybody. Whatever he says, soon the rumor will spread among them. The Reaper lives. Whatever the effect it'll have, it's not the right time. We may have avoided police pursuit, but such a high-profile kidnapping, not to mention the assassination of 2 high-level peerless, will ensure that the full analytical weight of the Jackal's counter-terrorism units is brought to bear on the evidence. And I believe him, but also a part of me is like, I don't know, man. Maybe this is exactly what you need, though. You know? I'm not sure I agree with that. I also have to say that if Quicksilver is telling the truth, which I think he is, about being one of the Sons of Ares, I can't think of a more convincing thing to happen to get the Jackal believing that he really is on the Jackal's side than to be kidnapped the way that he was just now. I feel like that's got to make him look good. But I don't know. I don't know if it even matters, to be honest. I I don't know why Mustang and Cassius were meeting, but I have to assume the Jackal doesn't know about it. That's why I used our jammers. So the security cameras outside of Quicksilver's control wouldn't ID Kavax. If the Jackal saw him there, he'd know something was amiss with his alliance with the Sovereign and Quicksilver, and I want to keep that card in my pocket till I know how to best use it. But what will the Sovereign think when Cassius calls her to tell her Moira is dead? And what is Mustang's place here? There are too many questions. We can't stop them. Let's see. Reap, they're going to hit us and hit us hard. You know Legion military procedure better than I do. We can't stop them, but we can buy time. Time for what, I ask? To blow the bombs and find a way out of this rock. He puts a hand on my arm, just as cognizant of those suns watching as I am. Please, get moving. So, I'm assuming the way that's worded is just to be like, he's only touching me and acting friendly because people are watching and we have to present a unified front. So then we go to Kavax talking, like telling them everything that's... I love him so much, you guys. For God's sake, Kavax, what a cinnamon roll. Like a cinnamon roll made out of like cast iron, but nevertheless, I love him so much. Virginia told us you were a red after she left you. That's why we did not come to your triumph. She did not know yet what to do, and so took our counsel as she did as a girl. We were on my ship, the Reynard, having roast mutton in ponzu sauce with Sophocles, though he did not like the sauce. This guy, I swear... Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Aegea command called saying the Sovereign Loyalist forces had attacked the Triumph. Virginia could not contact you or her father, and so feared a coup and sent Daxo and me from orbit with our knights. She stayed in orbit with the ships and finally contacted Roke when Daxo and I were already descending through atmosphere. Roke said the Sovereign had attacked the Triumph and wounded you and her father gravely. He urged her to come to one of his new ships where he was taking you because the surface was no longer safe. But Virginia did not rush to your bedside. A fool in love would do so, but Virginia is clever. She saw through Roke's mendacity. She knew the Sovereign would not simply attack the Triumph. It would be a plan within a plan. So she sent word to Orion and House Arcos that a coup was underway, that Roke was a conspirator. So when the assassins struck attempting to kill Orion and the loyal commanders on their bridge, they were ready. I love this so much, you guys. Virginia is... I wish that we got her POV. I really do. Because she is compelling. And we don't get enough of her. And I respect that part of the reason we don't get enough of her is because she's doing her own fucking thing. You know, she's not just next to Darrow all the time so that we just get... That's actually good. But, I really, really wish that we could get, like, a book from her perspective, you know? She is just out here being smart as hell, and I love her for that. She saved the crew's lives, I say. Yes, Kavax said, your crew is alive. The one you liberated with Sevro, even many of your legion, who we organized and managed to evacuate from Mars before the Jackal and Sovereign's forces took power. And he says, well, where are my friends imprisoned? And Kavax is like, imprisoned? No, it's just, they're just working. We haven't done anything. And he's like, well, I don't understand. Darrow just doesn't get it. He thought that they weren't on their side. And Kavax is like, dude, she's doing what's right. And Darrow is just like, oh my God, she's doing what's right, and not because of me, not because of love, but because it was the right thing to do. Oh my God. And because mighty Kavax was more a father to her than her own ever was. I feel the tears in my eyes. You were right, Darrow, Ragnar says. His hand falls on my shoulder. The tide rises. Then why are you here today, Kavax? Because we are losing, he says. So they're having this meeting with Quicksilver, who had proposed a peace. Virginia and allies would be pardoned by the Sovereign. She would become Archgovernor of Mars. Adrius and his faction would be imprisoned for life, and certain reforms would be made, but the hierarchy would remain. One thing doesn't make sense, Kavax. If this is true, why didn't you make contact with Sevro? Kavax blinks up at me. We did. Months ago. Didn't he tell you? You guys, if you could have seen my face, I was so disgusted. Like, there's a lot of reasons why Sevro may have ignored them. Maybe he didn't trust them, and in a way that could be valid. But also, feel it out and see. Don't just ignore it. It could be that he just wanted a chance to run shit, and he felt involving them would make it so that wasn't possible. It's difficult to know, because I don't see him as somebody who's, like, power hungry necessarily, but he is, like, he does want to prove himself. And even if there are valid reasons why he wouldn't have pursued that, the fact is, he didn't tell Darrow about this at all. And that's a whole separate issue. Not pursuing it, sure, that might be valid, but you at least shared with Darrow if there's nothing sketchy going on with you, that these people reached out and he hasn't, which leads me to believe there wasn't a valid reason, that something else is going on with him. And I don't know what it could be. I genuinely don't know why he would ignore allies of this caliber. And I am so pissed that they don't get a chance to talk about this before everything goes down later. So we go back to the Howlers and the meeting here, and like Darrow tries a couple times to get Sevro to come and talk, and Sevro's fucking straight up ignoring him. Even when Darrow is like, says out loud a moment, he just says busy right now. Ugh. So irritating. So they're trying to decide what they're going to do here. I entered the room quietly. His plan's a mess. We were due to stow ourselves away inside one of the empty helium haulers going back to Mars. We would have been gone before anyone even knew Quicksilver was kidnapped, and then detonated the bombs off station. Now, Sevro says, it's all shit. We obviously can't stay here, Victor says. We left enough DNA evidence for 100 crime scenes back there, and our faces are everywhere. Adrius will send a whole legion for us when they find out we're here. Or blow Phobos out of the sky, Holiday mutters. Helium-3 is Adrius' lifeblood, Victor says. He won't risk this station. Is there any other way off this damn rock? And there's a mention of teleportation again. I do like that keeps getting mentioned as something that's just absolutely out of the question, that they don't have the tech for that. It's just, I don't know. There's something about the author sort of lampshading that I kind of think is funny, because it's just such a thing with so much sci-fi, you know? So we jack a shuttle and run the pickets. Done it before. They'll shoot us down. Didn't last time. Last time we had Lysander, I remind him. And now we got Quicksilver. The Jackal will sacrifice Quicksilver to kill us. Count on it. Not if we go straight vertical burn to the surface, Sevro says. Suns have tunnel entrances. We will fall from orbit and go straight underground. I will not do that, Ragnar says. It is foolhardy, and it abandons these noble men and women to slaughter. That's the part that I was thinking of earlier. I thought he protested in the last scene, but it's this one. I agree with Rags, Holiday says. She scoots away from Clown and continues looking at her datapad, monitoring police frequencies. Say you get off, what happens to us? Rollo asks. The Jackal finds out the Reaper and Ares were here and he'll tear this station apart piecemeal. Any son left behind will be dead in a week. Did you think of that? He makes a disgusted look. I know who you are. We knew the second Ragnar walked into the hangar, but I didn't think Howlers ran, and I didn't think the Reaper took orders. And Rollo says, stay and help us take the station. We have got people here. And after that whole carving was like shared, everybody absolutely flipped the fuck out. They all wanted to see it, and it caused a bunch of servers to crash. If you march down to the hive and tell the low colors you're alive, we can take this moon. Easy as that, Victra asks skeptically. That's right. There's round about 25 million low colors here, crawling over one another, fighting for square meters, protein packages, syndicate, smack, whatever. Reaper shows his mug. All that goes to vapor. All that fighting, all that scrapping, they want a leader. And if the Reaper of Mars decides to come back from the dead here, you won't have an army, you'll have a tide at your heels. You register? This will change the war. He sends chills down my spine. But Victra's skeptical and Sevro's quiet. Hurt. This is when Victra is basically like, the weapons they have will cut right through all of y'all. I really don't think you are understanding what you're going to be up against. There's no way. What if they shut off your air, your water? What if we shut off theirs? Rollo asks. I frown. Can you do that? Give me a reason to. He looks at Victra, and by the bite in his voice, I know he knows exactly what her last name is. They might be soldiers, Domina. Might be able to put enough metal in my body that I bleed out. But before I was 9, I could strip down a grav boot and piece it together in under 4 minutes. Now I'm 38 and I can murder the lot of them 10 ways till Sunday with a screwdriver and an electrical kit. And I'm sick and tired of not seeing my family, of being stepped on and charged for oxygen, for water, for living. And there's 25 million of me on the other side of that door. And she calls him a welder with delusions of grandeur. And I wanted to slap her. Victra, I love you. But girl, what the fuck? Oh my God. So irritating. That's just gold behavior though. What am I going to expect? And he knocks a bunch of wrenches off the table and says, I'm an engineer, not a welder. And I love that it's described that she's like at least a foot taller than him, and it does not matter to him. He is staring up into her face anyway. Sevro says this isn't a debate. Quicksilver will get us off this rock, or I'll start taking off his fingers. Then blow the bombs. And when Ragnar tries to stop him, he says, I'm Ares, not you. And he points at Darrow and says, and not you. Finish packing the bloody damn gear now. And he leaves. And Ragnar is just like, I'm not doing it. I'm simply not. At which point Rollo says Ares is cracked, and Darrow grabs him and pins him against the ceiling and says, don't you say a damn thing about him. And I gotta say, I appreciated that. Rollo's correct. I think. He's correct. But Darrow defending Sevro in all of this, yeah, he still does owe him that. I really do appreciate it, as much as I agree with Rollo. So, he catches up with Sevro, and Sevro assumes the reason Darrow is here is because he doesn't trust Sevro alone with Quicksilver. And he tries to do the, like, we need to talk thing, but Sevro is just like, we'll talk later. We've got to deal with this now. So they go into the cell to talk with Quicksilver. And this is so funny because initially Quicksilver, they're still wearing their masks, right? They're still like, so he thinks that these guys are Jackal's men. At one point, he even says, Adrius, is that you? And at one point, Sevro uses the word boyo. And he chimes in, Barca, is that you? It is you. Damn the stars, boy. You scared the shit out of me. And I don't know if Barca is a name that I'm supposed to know. If that's somebody that's like close to them, that the fact that he's using this person's name casually here is meant to be sort of a hint. But I didn't remember the name. So if it's supposed to be a clue, I'm sorry I missed it. So Quicksilver says, this is all a misunderstanding, a vast misunderstanding. I know you may not believe it. I know you may think me mad, but you must hear me. I'm on your side. I'm one of you. Cassie says it's Fitchner and Sevro's family name. I straight up don't remember ever hearing that before. I believe you, and I'm sure we were told that before. But wow. Fitchner Al Barca, Sevro Al Barca. Okay, thank you guys. I straight up didn't realize that he knew exactly who this was. I thought he was thinking it was somebody else, but that it was a person that they knew who talked similarly to Sevro at this point. Ugh. Okay. This makes a lot more sense now. I'm one of you, Mr. Barca. One of us. What do you mean? What do I mean? Quicksilver laughs gruffly. I mean exactly as I say, young man. I, Regulus Ag Sun, Chevalier of the Order of Coin, Chief Executive Officer of Sun Industries, am also a founding member of the Sons of Ares. And that is the end of chapter 20. I love this. I really do. First, I love the fact that Quicksilver is the one that's in with Jackal, like with the media thing, because like, if we're thinking of Quicksilver as Mercury, the god Mercury was meant to be in charge of like communications. So him being in charge of the networks and everything makes a lot of sense. But then I always thought of Mercury, the god, as like somebody who basically was a sort of neutral, not even neutral. Mercury like was very willing to fuck with the gods for a good cause. He often would step in and just be like, this is fucking nonsense. He was doing this thing. Will you just, like he's seen as a lot of times sort of like a bit of a trickster type, but less so. And the fact that he turns out to sort of be on the side of the right thing makes a lot of sense for me. And I find that enjoyable. So, and I realized too, I have never like addressed the fact that the book is called Morning Star. And I don't know if there is something that comes up later that will make that title apparent, like why he chose that. But, I think of it as, Lucifer, the morning star cast down from heaven, which is basically what happened to Darrow. He has been cast down from heaven and, is ruling over hell, literally underground. So that's the way I'm taking it, but I don't know if that's the only reasoning behind the title or if that's something that comes up later. I just thought I would mention it. Okay, I'm over time, as I always am, but I'm just worried, guys. This was fun, but also so tense, and I'm really concerned about Sevro. Ugh, I hate it. Oh my God. Did you guys see that? Did you see the fly literally land above my lip on my face? I hate bugs so much, you guys. Why do they want to be as close to my mouth as they can get? Why is this? Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to wrap. I'm so sorry. Until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
was an Unspoiled Network podcast.